Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Urban Wren Show. I am your host, Brandon Houston, and we thank you for always tuning in to learn about what's going on here at the URC, as well as what's going on in the community as well. Now, today we are joined by two special guests as we dive deep into the realm of factors that influence and impact our community in a major way when it comes to substance abuse and mental health and how that coincides with each other as well. And for years, the Odyssey House has been a beacon of hope in helping individuals and families come together when it comes to recovery, when it comes to awareness of substance abuse and the factors that go into that as well. So we are bringing in two people who are joining the podcast today. And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce the clinical coordinator, Caitlin Mansour, and the substance abuse counselor, Max Rusager. And I just want to say welcome you guys to the show. How are we feeling today?
Good, man. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. How about you, Caitlin? How you feeling?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I think it's important for us to bring you guys into the show because, as I just mentioned, this is something that impacts the community in a major way. And to know that we have a resource out there that is available for people, to get information, to get help and things of that nature. This is a good spot for us to learn about that, learn more about what you guys do and how it can tie into bringing the community together and build a relationship and rapport in that regard. So I'm excited to have you guys, and like to ask you guys a couple of questions, get to know you guys a little bit better and get to know a little bit more about the Odyssey House as well. So if you guys are ready, we can get right into it.
Let's go.
All right, cool. So first question right off the bat, what exactly is the Odyssey House?
So Flint Odyssey House is what's called a therapeutic community. It's a behavioral modification program for people suffering from substance abuse disorders and mental health disorders. We're a co-occurring treatment center, and we have multiple components, which is just various levels of care to treat people so we can meet them wherever they are in their needs, from detox through residential inpatient treatment to outpatient. We have recovery housing. People can live and work on their recovery. So we're meeting people anywhere they need help.
Okay, and when it comes to the phrase meeting people where they are, that means like you're getting various degrees of or unique people that come in and unique stories that come to you guys. So how do you treat these individual stories? Because I know everybody is different. So how do you develop a plan or develop a treatment plan for specific individuals? What's the steps that you take for each individual?
Yeah, great question. Through our intake process, we find out a lot about the individual's needs. So we start, with all of the basic demographic questions. We have what's called an ASAM, which asks people about the different dimensions of their lives and what their needs are in each of them, like, in their mental health needs, in their career, legal, their environment, what's going on, what would you need help from us for, and we're able to figure out from that the level of care that they need to start at. And then from there, they're working with a counselor on their treatment goals. So that combines what we found your needs are with what you think your needs are, which can sometimes be a little different. And a lot of times they're the same. But from there, the treatment plan gives like a blueprint to their treatment during their time here, like what's going to be worked on, how we're going to work on it together, what you're going to do, what the counselor is going to do, how we're going to work as a team to get you where you want to go.
Okay, and that seems like a very long and detailed process when I think about it. Yeah. And when you look at the different types of things that are out there and the different cases that you can get with certain people, it just brings my mind to a quick question before I get back on topic real quickly. Just how did you guys even get involved in this area. Like, what inspired you guys to take on this aspect of treatment and care for people with substance abuse disorders or are heavily involved with drugs in that matter?
I think for me, personally, I'm in recovery myself. I've been sober for almost 8 years now, coming up this summer. A long history in the criminal justice system, so a lot of the treatment that I'm involved with, and I was working at a different facility than Caitlin. I work for Recovery Pathways in Corona. And really, with the justice involved population has always been where my heart's at, because going through the system when I was younger, going through the criminal justice system and spending time in jails and cars, not really getting the help that I really needed, it's always been near and dear to my heart. So I was able to stabilize myself and start to work for the same court systems that I was involved with when I was younger. So being able to give back to communities, it's a great career, and it gives meaning and purpose to my life.
Cool. And how about you?
Yeah, similarly, I will have 11 years sober on May 5th. So I also have, quite an experience with drugs and alcohol in my life. Also involved, in the legal system, in and out. So I feel very passionately about this field, about, others suffering from the same disease that I have. And, I went to school with no specific intention to work in the field, as I'm already involved in other ways, my own recovery pathway. But I found myself still at an internship at Flint Odyssey House and felt right at home. I felt like this is where I'm supposed to be. I can really make a difference here. I can relate to everyone, and I think it helps to kind of automatically build rapport with clients when, I can relate on that level. And we immediately know what each other suffers from, so we're immediately able to create a bond and trust, which goes a long way when it comes to therapy and treatment. So yeah, I really enjoy what I do.
I think one of the most important, especially for people in early recovery, a lot of them don't really have much hope. This isn't the first time they've been involved in the treatment center. This isn't the first time. I always kind of chuckle when I get somebody that's the first time coming into treatment. It's like, oh, this is welcome, because most people are we call them friendly faces in the business, right? So it's, when people walk into an office and see Caitlin or myself sitting there, it's not typically what you would think, but instantly they can identify and relate to us, and so they can see that maybe recovery is possible for them as well, which is really important.
Yeah, definitely important. And I just want to take the time to clap it up for you guys for 8 and 11 years sober. That is you guys are awesome for taking those steps and being able to, take your experiences and things that you've seen and been through and apply that to what you do now, which is truly amazing and definitely needed for people to see, that other people have been through it and they can.
Yeah, and I think one of the, being involved with the URC and the small amount of time that I have been, just with the how much your facility offers to the community, that's one of the things that lacks in substance abuse is this sense of connection to the community and for people constructive things to do with their time, right? So it's like having linkages of what you guys do at the URC, what Odyssey does, what my agency does, and being able to bring the pieces together. So if we have somebody living over here, it's like, hey, go down to the URC, but if we don't know how to make these connections, it's really difficult for people in isolation, really, because that's what addiction, that's where people live, is in isolation when they're using to branch out and be uncomfortable and get out there. So this is so crucial for them to have these different things available to them.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people deal with the societal discrimination against them too when it comes to dealing with substance abuse disorders. They don't really understand their stories or really understand what they're going through to get to those points. And so how does the Odyssey House take those stories of, how they got to those points and kind of craft a plan to, help them get the mental support, the physical support, just whatever support they need to reach that step of recovery and progress in society?
I think that's why it's so beneficial to have so many social workers work for us. Social workers are all about resources and connections and, being ingrained into their communities. We know where the stuff is at, so when people come in and they have different needs, we can't treat everybody like a copy-paste situation. But we're going to figure out how to help each individual. You know, it's the mission. So if we don't already have knowledge of where, you know, we might get help for a certain individual, we can ask. We have a ton of recovery coaches too, and that's also their thing, is being involved specifically in different recovery pathways. There's a lot of different ones out there, especially in the Flint community. So everyone, you know, they come in, like you said, with different needs, and as long as they're open about those needs and they have a desire to work on their treatment and they're sharing with us where they're at, we can do everything in our power to help them. We have a lot of our own resources, like in-house and things that we can do. But if we don't, we can refer out, like, to different mental health providers. We can get them, you know, connected to different agencies that might help them find employment. Yeah, just anything that they need. I think if we don't have it, we'll find someone who does.
One of the unique things about the Odyssey House is a different level of care, which I don't know if you can speak to that. I think we breeze over that especially, but that's so important because they have all the way from detox to outpatient with recovery coaching. And these, when she talks about levels of care, it's how intensive the treatment is. So, like, do they basically need to be in a hospital bed? Do they need medications? Mm-hmm. Are they able to just come in and see a counselor once a week? Is that sufficient? And so, depending on how the person's needs, all of their needs can be met there, where most facilities only have, like, I only do outpatient, I'm only a doctor, and you have to go here for that. So a lot of times services are so spread out, it makes it very difficult, and it creates a barrier for the individuals trying to seek the treatment that they need. Where with at the Odyssey House, they have it all there on campus, which is very unique.
Yeah. Trying to eliminate all the barriers.
Yeah.
Because those early recovery days, you know, sometimes you're either looking or you're very sensitive to any little hiccup, you know, that might get in the way and be like, it's not time. Not right now, never mind.
Yeah.
You know, so we're trying to stomp all those out and, you know, make it happen.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned barriers, and then you guys also talked a little bit about rapport earlier. And I know for sometimes, you know, when there's like a first timer that comes in, you know, there's a little bit of hesitation, there's a little bit of unsurety there as well. So just wanted to touch a little bit more on how do you build the rapport with the clients and, you know, build up that trust, that interaction between them to kind of aid in the recovery. Because I know a lot of people, when they're going through these type of things, they don't really trust anybody because, you know, some of the situations might have came from someone that they trusted. And then coming into this situation, it's like, how do I trust you when trusting somebody got me here? So how do you build the rapport with the clients and get them on the page that they need to be on to take those steps towards recovery?
Ask good questions, right? And a lot of people are very guarded with information. So for me, it's all about building trust, and usually that's through asking good questions and not like dominating the conversation. So letting people talk and ask them good questions about what's going on in their life, and trying to sometimes put the pieces together, and try and just recognize what they're struggling with in their past, all the information, all their history. You need to be able to like compile it all into their treatment plan, how you're going to go forward, because it's so different for each person. So a lot of times the system in a way is kind of set up for like a cookie cutter approach. They come in, they boom, boom, bang, they should be better. But like one of my mentors, he would always say, we're working on humans, not cars. And so I always try to remember that, like, this is, you know, it's a human being that we're talking to, and they're very complicated. Most of them have been through extreme amounts of trauma. That's how they got here. And so being able to understand and not necessarily push them into what I think they need to be doing, but helping them get where they say they want to go, and kind of steering from the sides is how I approach it.
Yeah, and you know, from my recovery and just in my lifetime, I think I've learned most people just want to be heard, you know, listened to.
Yeah.
When you're in addiction, a lot of times you're just being talked at, you know, or talked down to. People are telling you a lot of stuff about yourself, and you know, you can't speak up for yourself. You're presenting very sickly, you know, although you still have a brain, you still have a heart, you're still a very real person. People aren't really treating you like that. So I think coming into treatment, sadly, sometimes people still aren't heard, and so if I can be that person to just sit there and listen and not talk at you, like Max said, asking good questions, validating, just being open to whatever it is you want to tell me, there's time for me to talk with you later, you know, but right now, like, I just need whatever you're going to give me. And, you know, that can really help to disarm people and make them feel a little more comfortable, not defensive, you know, to understand that they're in a safe position now, you know, where they don't have to feel so afraid.
Yeah. I think, what Kayla and I talk about this frequently, but, you know, we're playing the long game, this very long game. And so people have this impression that they come in, they see a counselor for a short period of time, they get on a medication, and then all their problems are solved and everything's good. And that's usually not how it goes, right? It's a relapsing disorder, and plus with all the other concerns that they may present with, being able to, you know, I always try to make sure people remember that they have a safe place to come back to. And that's like my most important, how I approach everything, right? I want them to remember the interactions with me are good and positive, so if they are struggling, they know where to come back to.
Yeah, and that's good that you guys mentioned that, because having that safe space is so important for people. And just like I said, like that trust factor is so important, and to be able to build that and to be able to connect with each individual on some type of level, because, you know, like I said, everybody has a different story. So just finding that commonality, that common ground with each person is truly important. And on top of that, there's the emotional aspect behind it too as well. There's a lot of emotion that comes into play when, I'm sure you guys have heard a lot of different stories, and, you know, sometimes you connect emotionally in that regard too. So how do you handle it from an emotional aspect? Because I know some of those stories might hit or register with something you might have been through. So how do you deal with that, you know, keep your composure and, you know, try to, you know, bring that person in and, you know, uplift them in their time of need?
You know, I think therapists should have therapists. I think that's super, super important. You know, there's a lot of, you know, reflection, projection, like things that can happen in that therapy process. But, you know, what's interesting and probably pretty sad is that a lot of stories are the same. You hear a lot of the same stuff. It's not often someone really throws me for a loop, you know, and I say that, because it's sad. A lot of trauma. I've yet to hear somebody without trauma, and the degrees are varying, you know, but trauma is trauma. And, you know, a lot of people have similar experiences, and I wish if they could all understand that, what we understood, they would understand, you know, maybe a little bit more about themselves. And like, you are more normal than you realize. Makes a lot of sense to not have coping skills for what you went through, and to fall into the disease that you did makes a lot of sense. If people had been through what you did, you know, it's okay to be where you're at. It's actually pretty, you know, normal, maladaptive way to cope.
Right. Yeah, unhealthy coping, right? It's not right or wrong. It just seems that it's now become one of the bigger problems in our life. So whatever problem they presented with, or they use drugs and alcohol to solve, and now drugs and alcohol become the biggest problem. And when you take the drugs and alcohol away, the problem still exists, and they're still, and now chaos is probably ensued. And they usually come into the office with that, right? So for me, self-care is the most important thing, because I've been burnt out helping people, and it's like the most important thing in my life, because if I'm not right, I can't be right for anybody else. And so I work on like who I interact with, how I interact with them, and I try to bring the same energy every day. It's hard though, because we're humans too, right? So we have off days and bad days, and I just last week I took a mental health day on Thursday. I just was like, I had a full day and I felt bad, but I was like, I can't do it today. And my work was really understanding, right? So I know Odyssey is similar. So they really value like the staff, right? Keeping us in the best possible mental space to help the clients that need our help.
Yeah, and man, I was just, you know, listening to you guys, and I was like, man, I can only imagine what, you know, the other side is going through, because myself, you know, there was a period when I was going through depression myself, and, you know, just laying my story into my therapist, and it was just crazy. I'm like, I know I'm telling you all of this, I don't know how you're dealing with it, but I'm just thankful that you're able to deal with it and also manage your life as well, because it's a crazy thing, and I didn't realize it till I actually went through the process myself. So I definitely commend you guys on that regard.
It depends on the perspective. You know, I really think that therapy is a calling in a way, and it depends how you view it, you know, because Some people have the emotional space for others when they're going through stuff, and others don't, and that doesn't mean you don't have other skills. It depends where you're at. For me personally, I would rather focus on you if I'm going through something and not think about me.
Yeah.
So give me more, it just depends.
Yeah, it's definitely a calling. I think, just the only time I ever feel, the most I feel at peace in my life is always when I'm helping someone else. Mm-hmm. All my problems, no matter how serious they are, how severe they are, whatever it is, whenever I'm working with, whether at work or outside of work in the community, my life doesn't seem so bad. And it's always had that effect on me. And I always try to keep that in mind. Like, I don't try not to take myself too seriously, but it's give and take, but I agree with Caitlin, it's definitely a calling.
And we definitely need people that are here to listen. I think specifically here in the city of Flint, there's a lot of stories that aren't heard, mm-hmm. and it leads to a lot of different things happening, more on the negative side than the positive side. And I think it's due to a lack of awareness, really, that we have these type of things available for people, to come in and actually be heard by someone. And I think it's just important for us to, get that information out there to people, and just let them know that there's options out there. So that just brings me to my next question, and being involved in the community and things like that. So in what ways are you guys involved in the community and, bringing that awareness to the problem and the solution that you guys provide?
Well, we do as much networking as possible. Anytime there's events, we like to have a table out. We like to be there networking, talking to people, handing out flyers, just explaining who we are and what we do. We maintain connections through some of our programs, like Genesee Sobriety Court. We work with them in their treatment program. We have a relationship where we go to court every week with them. We treat their clients, and we have, similar situations throughout our levels of care, but that's just in our outpatient level of care, so we're trying to always partner up with different people in the community, see where we can help them, and, where they might be able to provide us some services as well. Because like we were talking about earlier, all the clients,
mm-hmm.
they have different needs, and we can't do everything, although we can do a lot, so it's just important to have relationships, do stuff like this and mm-hmm. see where there's more stuff for us to get involved in, because it's everywhere. Unfortunately, this community does have a lot of people suffering from this disease, and like you said, it's important to be heard, and a lot of the stories just aren't. So if we're not out there in the community trying to find them, they might never be heard.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I just wanted to bring that up because a lot of people, that I grew up with have fallen by the, way of, substance abuse and things like that. And they didn't have these type of things, available to them, whether it was, I don't know, it was just a lot of things. Like, I try to target one specific thing, but it was just really a lot of different factors that, tied into why they went the route that they went to and didn't have the help available that they did. But just knowing this now, I can, on my behalf, I feel like I can reach out to people now and say, hey, this is an option where you can go and get the help that you need and things like that. So when we talked a little bit earlier about like the different services, but I don't think services that you guys focus on when it comes to recovery and things of that nature.
So Odyssey is actually unique in another way. We are a designated women's specialty provider, and so we specialize in treating families and women in their pregnancy period, their postpartum period. Like, we're able to be extra helpful. We have some enhanced programming for them, some ability to help with transportation and childcare, and the barriers that are unique to women and families in general. So in all of our locations, families are able to stay together, children are able to live in-house and are inpatient in some of our recovery housing, because I would say that's one of the biggest barriers So we're able to help in that huge aspect of getting sober when you have children, when you're in a family system. So we provide some unique services there. We have therapy, we have recovery coaching, we're connected to Strive program, which helps with resume building, employment searching. So we trying to think of some of the other things, because honestly, sometimes I'm still learning, and I'm like, wow, I didn't know we did that too. It's just whatever people need. I feel like we're finding it.
Yeah, so one of the, like you touched on, we do the Enhanced Women's Specialty, and that program is amazing because one of the biggest barriers for people is transportation. And like our women's specialty, they'll even take people to court and file custody and help them do all the court paperwork, because addiction doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? It's not doesn't just affect the one person, it's their families, and then you have generations of families that are affected because one person never got the help that they needed. Right. And I think so many times society and people in it, we lose sight of like how big this problem is in our communities, and how many people are actually really being affected by one person's use, and how many lives can be changed if they do get the help that they need. I think that's one of the reasons we're so passionate about it, and because we can see a way through it. We've been there, we've done it, like it can get better, and this is fixable, and we try to meet them with the tools available to us to help them.
Yeah, and when it comes to the recovery process itself, just seeing people progress through that whole process. I know like sometimes there's setbacks and things of that nature, like relapse and things like that, but just to see people going through that process and really trying to better themselves and be better for the people around them and in their community and things like that. What does that do for you, just seeing that the work that you're doing is making a positive impact and helping uplift people in the society, in the community, and bringing them back to where they're trying to get to or where they feel like they should be?
I think I can never really recapture the feelings of like early recovery. There's something magical about it, and I always try to get back to that state of like where you finally realize like you've overcome, because I'm recovering heroin addict. I was out there. I'm lucky to be alive, and when I finally was not obsessed with getting high, and I was, a member of my family and a father and a son again, and paying bills and doing all these things, and one day after the next and after the next, and just how amazing that journey was, because it wasn't really the destination, it was like the journey. And so today, as I work with people, like I can never really recapture that initial feeling of how amazing it is, but when I see that light flick on in people's eyes, when it like that all comes back, like that gives me that feeling again. That's as close as I can get to it, and that's what I go after every day. That's why I keep doing this, because there's nothing better than watching somebody transform their life. It really isn't.
It's everything. Yeah. I was actually just getting passionate watching Max speak, because I do remember him from his early sober days, and like I just like that, little powerhouse, like seeing the light come on in his eyes, and to watch him do what he's done with his life, and now his schooling and the way that he still carries that same passion. It might not always be like the same as those early days, because there is like a magic in that, but it's very cool to watch that just become part of you. It's not this thing that you're chasing anymore, it's just within you and carries you through the work that you do today. And I do feel the same. It's everything. It gives me the motivation to get up and do this work every day, because it is difficult work, but you get that one success story here and there that you just, I don't know, fills your whole heart up. It's everything. If you save one life in your lifetime, then your life was meant to be saved for that. That person goes and saves another life. It's crazy. It's a gift.
It's a beautiful thing. I mean, the more, I don't question things anymore or how things turn out. Like, I just do the best I can in the situation that's presented, and everything else takes care of itself. I don't try to do too much. but I'm always trying to sharpen my own skills. Like, this is hard work, but I would much rather choose this hard work than the life I did live, right? Because that's way harder than what we do today. Like, we have problems, but we have high class problems today, right? Like, where am I going to lunch, or what am I, you know, whatever bills I got to pay, right? Before it was like, I hope I don't get sent to prison, you know, and by the judge, right? So it's like you can pick your heart in life. And I always try to reframe things for the people like that, because being full-time in substance use, like active addiction, trying to hold down a job, trying to be a father and a partner, like that is the definition of misery. Like trying to pretty much live in a lie. Like you don't want to be a drug addict every day, but yet you spend all your time being one while presenting that you're not one. Like it's misery. You know, and there's a way out of that. And I never thought it was possible until I met people like Caitlin, or met people in the rooms, or met people in treatment centers that were like, it can get better, dude. And I was like, so finally I was like, I'm just going to shut up and listen. You know, that was the best thing I ever did. So instead of doing things my way, I just listened to people who had something I wanted. And all of a sudden, my life started transforming, right? Yeah. So that's the beauty in it.
Odyssey likes to say that 10 lives are impacted by every life saved, you know, so just think of the hundreds and hundreds of people every day that we're actually impacting with the work, and it's pretty darn cool. But I like to do it because someone did it for me, you know, or I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have my daughter, who will go on to impact many lives, and them, and on, you know. It's a beautiful domino effect we get to be a part of.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's like a domino effect for sure. You know, you affect one, you know, they see that, and it just spreads out, you know. So
very quickly, either positively or negatively. We hope for the positive.
One way or the other, it's going to spread.
Hope for the positive, for sure. But just looking at what you guys do, and then you guys coming here to, you know, develop a relationship with the URC. What are some of the things that, you know, you hope to connect on with the programs and services here at the URC that allows the Odyssey House to, you know, get the information out there and, you know, continue to make an impact in the community?
Well, I'd like to know more about what you guys do. Earlier I was hearing someone speak on, what was the term?
Ubuntu.
Tell me more.
I love it.
So Ubuntu is a saying that says, I am because you are. So it's basically just describing what you guys been mentioning, you know, when telling your stories and how everything impacts the community. If I'm, you know, in a position to bring someone up, then I can, whether it's through resources, information, having the ability to bring people along with you in your journey. That's basically what it describes. And for you guys coming in, that's part of the Ubuntu, you know, bringing in the resources and information that you have, combining with what we have as well, and allowing that to uplift the community and the people and spread awareness in a way that we probably haven't been able to before. So that's the whole idea of that when it comes to the term Ubuntu. And I personally hope that, you know, we can develop that further and allow ourselves to grow the community, because we have a lot of aspects here in the city that aren't really talked about. And I believe us having this platform, allowing ourselves to have this conversation, hear you guys speak about what goes on in terms of, you know, being aware that substance abuse is a real thing, and that there's a way forward to progress and uplift the people that are affected by it, not only the individuals directly affected, but indirectly affected by it as well. And we just want to bring in as many people as we can, specifically the Odyssey House, you know, since we're having this conversation today. And just let people know that there are options and a way for them to progress in a city that has been affected by negative stereotypes for a long time, very long time.
You know, earlier, right before we started this, you were all kind of sharing little bits and pieces of your upbringing in the community, and not really knowing about Odyssey House, and then Odyssey not really knowing about the stories that you were then sharing earlier, that there's unheard stories, you know. So right there I can see an alliance needed in
for
order
sure.
to reach the population who needs us but doesn't know about us, and we don't know about them.
Yeah.
So I imagine that's the partnership right there.
Yeah, for sure. And it is definitely something that I believe is in the works. I would love to see it grow because as this connection grows, it allows the community itself to grow, and it allows it to expand out to whoever needs it. Like this can become beyond like a community thing and become a national, worldwide type of deal, So,
Love it.
but in you mentioning, not knowing, like, because I definitely didn't know in the beginning because, I had to do a little bit of research myself to, formulate some of these questions. But for those out there who are watching and may not know the information needed to reach out to you guys and things like that, how can they get in contact with you, or some of the like websites or information where can they go to, reach out to the Odyssey House?
So our website is odysseyvillage.com. It's on the back of all of our sweatshirts, t-shirts, anything,
All the merch.
odysseyvillage.com. Our email at odysseyvillage. So my email address is caitlin.mansour@odysseyvillage.com. If anyone wants to contact me as the clinical coordinator, I'm able to help get people into services, help them get to a counselor, make sure they're getting the treatment that they need, looking into each and every case and just making sure that, they are where they need to be. Let's see, our intake phone number, I should probably check to be positive, but I'm pretty sure.
Put it in the chat.
It's 810
We'll have it on the screen.
238-5888.
Yeah, 3 8s.
3 8s.
There you go.
Yeah.
Got you. And I was under the impression that there are multiple locations as well for people. or-
Yeah, so we're condensing, but there were
Okay.
many. But yeah, so we have different levels of care. We are condensing mostly to one campus. We just moved in January, so it's super exciting for us. But we do still have our recovery houses in the city of Flint, but we are now off of Bristol Road in the old Baker campus. So we have...
It's a nice new facility.
Yeah. But we also have a residential treatment center in Saginaw, and we have recovery housing in Port Huron.
Can you tell just a little bit what recovery housing is?
Yeah. Recovery housing is where someone can live during their first year of sobriety while they're doing outpatient treatment. So they're supported in an environment with, other people going through the same thing. So it's pretty nice. There's a lot of accountability. Yeah, there's a lot of requirements involved.
It's like more like affordable though, right? They pay for a room and like
Yeah.
they have chores and they have to keep
Well,
them in the
they're
house and all those things.
Yep, their insurance will pay for it. And we're
Oh, really?
primarily Medicaid. Yep,
that's
so
great.
that will cover housing.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, it's really nice. But they do that for a year max. That insurance will cover it. So in the later second half of their time, we're starting to look into different living options for them. We're never gonna throw somebody out on their butt after doing so well. We're gonna make
Right,
sure
make
that
sure they have
you are
the-
continuing this
yeah.
on. So we're working with them the whole time to make sure that they're having success afterwards. But yeah, we have about a year to really get a good plan in action.
All right. So it definitely seems like there are multiple options and multiple ways for an individual to get to where they need to be. And I'm just thankful that you guys are able to provide those different resources. Just because, like I said, there's different stories, different backgrounds, and you want to be able to reach out to each separate one as much as you can. And it's really awesome to see that is available. And I hope that if anybody's out there watching and listening, that you take advantage of it and really find that space for someone that you know, or if it's yourself, to just reach out and get the help that you need, because it's very important. And this has been a thing that has been around for some time, and it's been different factors as well. You think about the 80s, how it was different, the 90s to current day. Like, there's always something out there, and I want everybody to do the best that they can to reach out to the ones they love that might be going through those things, and just bring them to the Odyssey House.
Yeah.
Bring 'em to the Odyssey
There you
House.
go.
Bring 'em on
And with that being said, I just look forward to the work that we're able to do here at the URC with you guys in order to branch out and, you know, make sure that people are getting the information, make sure people are getting the help, the resources, and things like that. You know, me personally, I'm excited to see what comes out of this as well, because I learned a lot just from talking with you guys, because like I said before, I didn't even know this was a thing until they mentioned it to me. So I'm like, wow, we really have this in the city, and I'm glad we're just able to talk about it and, you know, get that out to the people. So I hope you guys really took this in and really, you know, took the information, because it's definitely important. And I thank both of you guys for coming on to the show. For Caitlin and Max, it was a pleasure having you guys.
Appreciate it.
Hopefully sometime down the line we can bring you guys back on and we can have, you know, a deeper conversation about certain things. But for now, I definitely appreciate you guys for coming on to the show. And it was an amazing conversation. So I want to say thank you to you guys.
Thanks for the space, man.
This was awesome. I can't wait. I can't wait for the future with you guys.
No problem. And thank you to you guys for tuning in to the Urban Ren Show. As always, we appreciate you guys for tuning in to each and every episode. Make sure you follow the Urban Renaissance Center on all the social media platforms. We got a lot of great episodes covering a lot of different things going on here at the URC, as well as our outreach into the community and our connection with spaces like the Odyssey House. So, yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. For your host, Brandon Houston, I want to say thank you guys for tuning into the show, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.